We really appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm Janel Patterson. I'm with Frienedy, which is the first private group networking application for users of all ages. And one of the missions that we're very, very passionate about is digital citizenship and helping teens and tweens and parents understand the importance of creating a positive social media presence. So the three of us have come together tonight. I'm going to let Meghan and Alan introduce themselves before we get started. But Frienedy and Meghan from GoEnnounce and Alan from Social Assurity have come together collectively tonight to put this on for you, and we hope that you will gain some great information, some good value, and some tips to be able to put into practice at the end of this. So Meghan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself before I get started?
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Meghan Davis with GoEnnounce. GoEnnounce is a way for you to be able to create a social profile of all of your academic, extracurricular, volunteer work, be able to share those accomplishments and your progress with mentors and relatives, and I'll have them be saved in one place. So when you're going to apply for colleges or scholarships or even jobs in the future, you can remember everything that you've done. We also allow you to gain access to brand-sponsored scholarships. Your GoEnnounce page is your own URL, so on the topic of putting your best social media foot forward, using your GoEnnounce page is a great way to digitally portray yourself in a very positive light to, again, college admissions and job opportunities.
Awesome. Alan?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. It's great to be here. My name is Alan Katzman, and I'm with Social Assurity. And our mission is to teach students, both high school and college level, how to post online with a purpose, how to build a digital presence on public social media platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, in advance of college admissions, scholarship review, internships, as well as employment. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I think we have some great information available for everyone who's joining us tonight.
I think so too, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start here, and I think we're going to have Alan cover the first couple of slides. And what we thought we would do is start out by showing everyone really what reality looks like. We want to show you what's going on out there, give you a couple of statistics, nothing too crazy, but we want to show you a few statistics that are going to show you what reality looks like, and then we're going to get into our tips and a couple of great examples for you.
Okay, thanks, Janelle. So what you're looking at here is a chart, and this chart is actually showing, there it is, the percent of college admissions officers who visited an applicant's website, an applicant's social media page since 2011. As you can see, the blue in 2014 is the last time we've seen the results from Kaplan Test Prep, which shows 35% of college admissions officers are looking. So if you're a senior this year, if you're finishing your applications and applying, you could probably assume that about 40% will be taking a look. Now, what we don't know from this chart is the schools that are looking, how many applicants these admissions officers are looking at their social media, or why they're looking. So this is kind of a stagnant number, but this is telling a bigger story, and that is that the traditional metrics for college of GPA, standardized test scores, essays, is just not giving enough granular information to admissions officers to make viable distinctions between so many qualified applicants. We've heard, there's reports about 80% of the people who apply to their target schools, elite schools, are qualified to go there. And even interviewees, interviewer at Yale has recently said it's become a lottery, it's random, that there's not enough information. And I think this explains why being able to put yourself forward and building a digital portfolio and giving college admissions officers and scholarship committees more information about you, about your passions, your interests, your skills, your accomplishments, they're going to be looking because they're actually hungry for more information about you, and the platforms that we're talking about tonight give you that ability to convey and showcase relevant information to these decision makers about your future.
Yeah, and I think you touched a little bit on this, but I think this is really important to talk about these statistics too.
Well, here it is. I mean, if you're in high school right now, you're focused on getting into college, but probably the reason why you're going into college is to get a job, get a good job, and have a good career. But look at these numbers, all right? Over 90% of businesses are going to look at your social media at some point during the hiring practice before making a decision. And almost 3/4 of recruiters have hired a candidate through social media. We call this social recruiting, where they can actually find people that they're looking for without even posting an ad. They can just do a search query on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, and find candidates who have the criteria and the experience and the education that they're looking for. So this is a skill that you need to build not only for college, but throughout college, because it's just becoming more and more important each year. And I think the critical element here is 50% of recruiters believe they found better talent as a result of social recruiting. So it doesn't make any sense to hide your social media, because if they're looking to mine social media to find candidates, if you're not there, they're not going to find you. And that is a missed golden opportunity. So we say, if they're looking, give them something to see. And, and Janelle and Megan and I are here to talk this through, right, Megan?
Yeah, no, I just think that's such an important point that students, that people don't even think about in general. The fact that, people just automatically revert to, let's just hide. I'm going to change my name, and we can get into that a little bit later, but it's just so important, and again, those stats aren't lying, that hiding is not the answer.
No, we call it the biggest mistake you can make.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to add to that too, I think what people first think about is bad things that are on social media, and they think, okay, well, at least if I don't have anything on there that's terrible, like too many red Solo cups or something else, then I'm in the clear. But what they don't think about is it's not only important to make sure that you've got a good positive presence, but you also have to take that extra step to be sure that you stand out and to know how to do that.
Right.
So I think that's really important as well. What we did tonight too is we compiled. It's no surprise. You can turn on the news any given day, and you're going to find a story about somebody that tweeted their way out of a scholarship, or somebody that was booted off of a sports team because of bad social or online behavior. And it really does happen. I would be willing to bet that anybody on this Google Hangout tonight, as well as the three of us, know of somebody this has happened to. I personally know of at least 3 students that this happened to last year that lost scholarships to college based on Twitter activity. And so here what we've done is we've just taken a couple of examples that show it really does happen. Nobody out there is invincible, and that colleges are looking. I know that competitive sports teams look, teachers look, employers look, and so you just have to be very intentional and cognizant of everything that is out there in your social media platform, and that it reflects on your personal brand. And I think one thing the three of us definitely wanted to talk about is we kind of get into these tips. And we've got 8 tips we're going to talk to you about. We said 10. We consolidated a couple of them, so we really have 8. But the first
we may come up with 2 surprises along the way.
Yes. So the first thing, and I will just let the audience know about this. The 3 of us were together at the Digital Citizenship Summit in West Hartford, Connecticut in early October. It was a phenomenal summit, and one of the really cool presentations that was there was given by a high school student named Timmy Sullivan. We wanted for Timmy to join us tonight. He had another commitment that came up last minute, and he regrets that he couldn't be here, but he was able to give us some great information and allow us to take some things from his presentation up there. Well, one of the things that he learned, and one of the things that all 3 of us tell students that we come in contact with, is the first way to find out what people are going to see about you is to Google yourself. And as basic as that sounds, a lot of people don't realize that it's very important to Google yourself and find out what comes up. And I know, Alan, you have a good point about if you Google yourself and other people's pictures come up, that's a situation you don't want to be in. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, Janelle, two things I would say: that when you do Google yourself, make sure you're using a private window, or if you're using Chrome, the incognito mode. Because if you're using your regular browser, Google knows it's you, and you're going to get an inaccurate result. So you're going to be seeing more about yourself than I would if I was Googling you from my browser. So always do it in incognito mode. And then what you really want to see, if people are going to be looking for you and they're going to start with Google, you want to make, they're going to just probably hit the first 2 or 3 entries. But remember that our names are horrible identifiers. You know, I know if I Google myself, and I have, there's doctors and dentists named Alan Katzman. There's probably a few accountants. There's at least one felon that I've come across. And if people don't know you, they will not know if they're coming across the wrong you. So we have several tips that we suggest in how you can kind of reduce the risk of mistaken online identity. And the one that I'll share with you, so this will be one of the surprise tips, will be make sure you have a good email address that uses your name. And since most names are already taken in Gmail or Yahoo, what other mail accounts, just use a form of your name and a geographic identifier like, you know, Alan.Katzman NYC, and make sure all of your social media accounts link to that, because email is a unique identifier, and if you use that as the identifier in your social media and you set your settings that people can search for you with that email address, they'll find you and not somebody with your name. So that would be one of my extra tips for tonight.
Good point. Good point. And I think, Megan, you might have to help me remember this, but I think that Timmy, who I referenced earlier, this is kind of what got him started going down that path of I really need to clean up my digital footprint.
Yeah, well, Timmy's was 2 things. One, kind of how Alan mentioned, there was a felon that had his same name and was showing up, you know, in the Google search, you know, before he was, and so that really bothered him. So Timmy made it his mission for about a year, I think he said, to really like boost himself up on the rankings of Google. And so now when you Google Timmy's name and, you know, Timmy Sullivan, he bumps up higher than the felon. So that was one thing that he was just kind of alarmed about. He didn't want to be associated with that. And then another thing was, you know, he was seeing, you know, in a different light. He knew what his screen names were on Twitter and, you know, whatnot, but he was just seeing them in a different light, and that kind of just, you know, made him aware that he needed to change them. I think Timmy's Twitter handle was "I'm so sexy and I know it" or something.
That's right. That's right. I'm so sexy it's scary, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And he was, and Timmy was starting to get recognized in the education world because he was so passionate about it and conversing with teachers, and he was, you know, on Twitter, and he was starting to say, you know, I started looking at my screen and conversing with teachers on Twitter, and that was my handle, and I thought maybe I need to kind of get a handle on that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's a good example. We're going to go into Timmy's example a little bit, or a lot of his examples, so that people can see what he did and the results he had. I think, secondly, too, what's really important, that the 3 of us really agree on this, is that you have to take control of your online identity. That's your responsibility and nobody else's. And what has happened is that public social media, it's now your brand. So if you stop and think and visualize your very favorite brand and all of the positive things that come to mind when you think of that brand, that's kind of how you need to think about yourself, and understand that everything that you're putting out there in the public domain can be found, and you need to make sure that it reflects the brand that you want other people to see you as.
Yes. I want to throw in one example on this one, just because, and it is a GoEnnounce example, so apologies on that, but it's just a good example of kind of one student kind of really taking control of his online identity and using it for something really good. So on GoEnnounce, again, students are allowed to post updates of their major accomplishments and progress, and it really highlights who you are as a student. And he's really into volunteering. He volunteers with his Key Club, he volunteers with his ROTC, and it's very evident how much he's active volunteering on his page because there's photos of him volunteering. And so a Make-A-Wish Foundation was piloting a regional pilot program for youth in his area, and they were only accepting a couple students in the area, and he really wanted to be part of this program. And he just didn't know what to do to stand out, and so he actually submitted his GoEnnounce URL, which really showed how volunteer-oriented and how service-oriented he was, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation actually accepted him and wrote him saying, you know, because you included that, you got this, because we were able to see how you really portrayed yourself on this digital platform. And that could be anything, and we'll get into this later too. It can be anything from Instagram, you know, if you're really into art and you're using, you know, your Instagram to portray this, but, you know, kind of be, you know, like we were saying, control your online identity, and, you know, make it so it's, you know, the same on every platform. You're really, you know, marketing yourself as the same student on all these different platforms.
Mm-hmm. And I would just add one thing that to make this take this full circle, and that is, and we're seeing a lot of this in the past week, but no matter what you post on social media or where you decide to post it, whether it's Facebook, which is clearly the most popular platform, or if you want to get into an Ask FM or a Yik Yak or, you know, others, Snapchat, the bottom line is every time you hit post, you're creating a permanent record. It does not disappear. And if you think you're on an anonymous site, you're not anonymous. Okay, we've, you know, the big headlines this past week, even though the three of us have been talking about it for a long time, is that people posting on Yik Yak, which is supposedly anonymous, are getting arrested for the threats they're making.
Yeah.
But so everything you do is ultimately discoverable. And I think what we're saying here about the public social media is now your brand. If you post something on Ask or Kick, it can be found as easily as it is on Facebook. But the trick is that people are going to look at Facebook first. They're going to look at Twitter first. They're going to look at LinkedIn. So use that to your advantage. That's where you can really build your brand, because that's where people are going to be looking. If you don't have a positive brand on some of the easy-to-find platforms, you're asking them to dig deeper, and then they might find things that you never intended them to find.
That's a great point. Absolutely. Which leads us into talking a little bit more about exactly what your digital footprint is and, you know, what makes up a digital footprint. I know this summer I had a chance to speak to lots and lots and lots of teenage girls in a conference here locally, and these girls were all between about ages 12 and 16, and I asked them before every session, do you guys know what your social media profile looks like? What do you think makes up a digital footprint? And I was really surprised that so many of them really didn't know what makes that up.
Yeah.
And Meghan, you talk about that a lot. Do you want to cover these things on this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that it's really important for students to understand, or, you know, everyone in that matter, that, you know, as we talked about with Timmy with that example, you know, of his Twitter handle being "I'm so sexy it's scary," or, you know, whatever it was, and then he's now changed it to Timmy S54, and he's also made that universally what he is, you know, and that is his email, that is his, you know, I think it's his Google Plus name. You know, he's really made that universal. So if someone found Timmy S54, you know, that's who he is. You know, Timmy Sullivan is a pretty common name. So just trying to be aware of, you know, using a username that kind of reflects you, and you want that, you know, in years to come to reflect you, not just right now. You know, you hear about all the time, like, kids create emails, you know, back in like 7th grade, and it's like b-ball chick 54 or whatnot, and, you know, is that something that you're going to want to, you know, be conversing with a college admissions officer with? Think about those type of things. Same with profile photos. You know, talking about that, I know Timmy was a good example of that as well, where he had, you know, probably not a professional-looking headshot of himself. It doesn't need to be professional all the time. It can just be like a good photo, clear photo of you. Another thing that we kind of covered a little bit is, you know, your posts. Every post matters. Think before you post. You know, even when you're communicating with people and you're commenting on things, those are things that can be traced back to you. So really think about how you're communicating with people, whether it's you posting or you're commenting on other ones. And then also, you know, who you're connected with. think about what you're really passionate about and the brands that you're following, especially if you're on Twitter or Facebook. You know, what are the brands that you're following? Do they reflect who you would want to be associated with? Those are important things that you probably don't even think about, but they are, you know, who you follow matters. So I think that that's just something to kind of remember.
And just to clarify here too, is when we say the brands that you want to be associated with, we're used to kind of our tech speak, but for any teenagers who might be listening on here or have joined in, when we say brand, we mean, you know, users or people. And, you know, you have to really be aware of all of the different groups and people that you follow and that follow you, because they define what somebody else judges you on.
And it all comes down to character. And you know, I've spoken to a number of college admissions officers, and character counts, right? Are you going to be what? Let's put it this way: they want to assemble every year a diverse group of talented students and build a safe community. So they want to, by safe community, they don't want anybody who has threatened violence or has been, you know, on social media has been violent. They don't want people who can't participate in open debate and sharing ideas, right? And these are things that people can get a good read about just by looking at your social media. So I think Meghan's point is really great on the comments, and this doesn't mean that you have to be vanilla. I mean, you can have a point of view, and you can be forceful in your writing, and you can actually post things that your grandmother may not approve of. I hate the grandmother rule, but be respectful.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Be respectful. Engage in argument. Engage in conversation, but do it with respect, and that goes a long way to impress other people who will be looking at your digital footprint.
Yeah, if you have a stance and a voice on something, don't be. That is a very, very, very good point, Alan. You know, you shouldn't be afraid to use that. You know, especially if it's something that you're passionate and very knowledgeable about. That's a perfect time to, you know, showcase your knowledge.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so tip 3. You know, we've talked about what makes up a digital footprint. What is that? And there's lots of moving parts and pieces. So now it's really important to kind of take the bull by the horns and build your footprint and choose the social media accounts you want to represent your brand. And everybody's different. Some people love Twitter. Others are big Instagram fanatics. And it doesn't really matter as long as you choose a couple of them where somebody is going to find you, because ultimately you want to focus these public social media accounts around the brand that you want to create, and remembering that you have to be intentional about everything that you put out there, because it's going to ultimately be a reflection of what people are going to see and how they're going to judge you. All right, so we're going to get into some examples of Timmy. We've talked a little bit about him, and we talked about his prior, his Twitter handle, the "I'm so sexy it's crazy" or whatever it was. We're probably completely butchering it, but anyhow, when he really realized that he needed to make a change, he decided to do a couple of things that were really smart. He decided to create a Twitter profile, and he decided to use his name in there, which he's Timmy S54. And then, you know, if you notice in here, he puts a very professional biography. It's not, you know, anything quirky or you know, cynical or sarcastic or anything like that. He puts a very great a biography together, and then he also linked his LinkedIn account. So Timmy's active on LinkedIn as well, and the cool thing that he's done here is anybody who finds him, and I know he really wanted to go to Cornell University, so he was really smart, because if anyone from Cornell is looking at his Twitter account, they're going to automatically be drawn down to see his LinkedIn account, and then can click on that to go over there and see a little bit more about him.
Yeah, and even to take that a step further, if you look in his bio, it says like at Cornell ED Arts and Sciences applicant. Again, if someone from Cornell came to Timmy's Twitter account, I think they would understand and know how passionate he was about going to that school, and I think that that's something that a university would be, you know, very, very, you know, accepting about.
I think that's a great point, and I think, although we didn't rehearse this, here's my second surprise tip. I think Timmy has a great social media presence, and I think by linking your LinkedIn URL to your Twitter is the most powerful thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem with Timmy's profile. There's a typo in it. I just noticed it.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I see it now that you said that.
And
we need to let him know.
we will let him know.
Yeah.
But this is it makes for a great point. You have to proofread this because typos and errors like errors of writing, of grammar can actually hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if people notice that. So we'll let Timmy know to clean that up. But otherwise, I think it's really smart and well done.
Yeah, and one other thing that people might not know about that you can do on Twitter, if students that are joining us right now don't use Twitter, is if you look at his top tweet, it's the pinned tweet. So that is one that will stay at the top of Timmy's Twitter feed all the time. And that's just important it's the first thing that if someone was looking at his feed, they would see. And that's obviously a very impressive one. He did a TEDx talk, so that's obviously a very impressive thing that Timmy's done, and it's a great way for him to showcase it.
Great point, Megan.
And Twitter's the best networking platform out there for the people listening, especially for students. It gets you access to people that you wouldn't otherwise have access to.
Right.
So you can follow them. You follow them. You see what they tweet. If there's a tweet that speaks to you that you feel you can add to the conversation, you can retweet it. You can quote it. You can, editorialize it. And slowly but surely, they're going to take notice of you. Mm-hmm. And then that will draw them into your profile, as Timmy did here. And then hopefully the greatest thing would be for them to click the link to your LinkedIn. It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The other thing that I want to point out here that Timmy did, and I know this is his pinned tweet, but I think most of his Twitter feed looks like that. Look what he posted. It's here, my first TEDx talk. Not everyone has had the opportunity to do a TEDx talk, but everyone's done something cool that they want to showcase and that they want a future employer or a college admissions officer to see. And, Twitter is such a powerful tool, to your point, Alan, that it's a networking tool. I think I just can't impress enough how important it is to tweet productively and constructively. Instead of, I'm craving Doritos or I'm bored in chemistry class or, something about the teacher, those are the things that that's not what Twitter is designed for. Instead, it's designed to be able to connect and engage with people that share your interests. And I think what he's done here shows a level of professionalism, and it shows, it makes him stand out. So Cornell will be very, very lucky to have him.
And going back to the importance of the Google search, Google and Twitter are very close. Google indexes every single tweet. So there's a good chance if you are active on Twitter and tweeting to a disciplined cause, whether that's your interests or passions, whatever it is you might be tweeting about, if somebody searches for you, they're going to come up in your Google search, which is it's a great asset to have.
Mm-hmm. And then, speaking of Google, Timmy also chose, I think his profiles, he decided on Twitter and Google+. He's got a blog, which we'll talk about later. And then, of course, and he has GoEnnounce and he has LinkedIn. So he also decided that Google+ was a profile that he personally wanted to be engaged in because he networks with a lot of teachers. So he did a really good job on this. I don't know if either one of you guys wanted to comment on his Google+ profile at all.
I know that when he was speaking at the summit, one of the reasons he had talked about using Google+ is because, again, for SEO purposes, which if anyone doesn't know, that's search engine optimization, which means you're ranking on Google. I think that him having a Google+ helped him with bringing his SEO up a little bit and having him show up. I also think he did it a lot because he had a lot of YouTube videos that he was part of, where he was moderating and hosting different YouTube conversations, and also his TEDx presentation that he did, and I think that he wanted a place to kind of post those, and I think that was one of the reasons. So if you are active on, a lot of, different YouTube videos that you're creating, this would be a good profile for you to have.
Right. Agree. And then this is his GoEnnounce profile.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to let you talk to this one, Megan.
No, of course. So this is just a quick screenshot of his GoEnnounce profile. If you were to click View More, you'd be able to see a ton more of what Timmy has in there. For students, this is a great way for you to be able to, if you started at a young age, we even encourage students to start it as young as 7th grade. But think about if you started this in 9th grade and you were able to add in all your awards, your scholarships, your extracurriculars, your volunteer hours, every time you join something new. Then when it's time to build a LinkedIn and also apply to colleges, you have your major highlights that you can put on there. You also have a live feed that you can attach any kind of documents, photos of major accomplishments or progress. And then Timmy had just started his page when I took this, and so he only had 1 follower. But GoEnnounce, we encourage you to interact with your mentors and relatives, and those are the people that really want to know what you're doing in school, because they have a lot of great advice. Trust me, I see it happen on the platform all the time, where these people have a lot of great advice and feedback and encouragement to offer you. They just don't have a way to know what you're doing in school, because we know that students, when they get asked, how was your day in school today, what are you doing, you kind of roll your eyes because it's just a lot to go over. So we hope that if you have a GoEnnounce page, you're able to keep these people in the loop, because trust me, it can benefit you. It's a great way for them to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, tip 4. The other thing that's really important, so we've spent some time talking about some ways to build a really constructive and positive public social media profile so that the people who you want to find you and see what you want them to see. The other thing that is important here is sort of what I like to call the right mix, and leveraging private social media, when and how to do that. And Frienedy is actually a private social media application, a platform. And what we believe is that, again, you have to put so much thought and so much intentionality behind everything you post in public that today's kids and today's adults, we're so used to posting like fun little silly things, whether it's selfies, of course it's the selfie generation, or duck faces, or peace signs, or pictures from the sleepover, or homecoming, or pictures while you're on vacation on the beach. There's so many different things that aren't necessarily what we want to post in our public friend sphere, or on our public billboard, or in our channel. Those things that don't differentiate us, that don't, inspire others, or maybe conversations that are just meant to be seen or heard within a very finite group of people, that's where you use private social media. So we're in this generation that we're so used to putting everything out there electronically, and now we need to get to a point where we learn how to partition that off and put everything out there that we choose to make public, and then take other conversations or photos or events or documents and that are valuable to us, or that we want to share with smaller audiences, and put those in a private social media platform like a Frienedy, as an example. Okay. And then let's dig a little bit deeper into some of the things that you should be posting to get noticed. And I think, Ellen, I'm going to let you talk about this, because I think it would be a good idea to give people an idea that on these public social media platforms, whether it's Pinterest or Instagram or LinkedIn, what are some of the things or tips that you've got from your background and perspective in your business that would be really productive things that people can think about posting?
Sure, thanks. One of the things that we're big believers in is conveying and showcasing your true interests, what you're passionate about, and maybe passion isn't a good word. Maybe 16-year-olds really don't have a passion, but there's curiosity, there's interests, and we believe that if you have, as Megan said earlier, if you're more visually oriented, you can create portfolios of these interests so easily for the public to see. And you can use Pinterest, you can use Instagram, you can use LinkedIn. and we'll talk a little bit more about LinkedIn in a moment. But just even looking at this is Annalee Bainson, who graduated last year, and obviously she loved horses, and she wasn't going to study horses in college, but this was her interest. This was her hobby. This is, she grew up around horses. She became a champion rider, and she took care of her horses. And if you looked at her pages, that passion jumped off the page from her social media. So if she wrote an essay about the lessons she's learned, from this activity and how meaningful it is for her, if anybody did look at her social media, there would kind of be that depth, that credibility to what she's talking about, that she's not making this up to impress an admissions officer. This is real because she's documented it, and she's documented it in a very thoughtful way. Instagram, we've worked with students. The student that was showing the Instagram, he wanted to study architecture, and he built an Instagram account that he put up photos of structures, of man-made structures, from both ancient to modern, that most impressed him, with a little description of why. And he's currently studying architecture in a very fine university. Again, it's a way to extend the reach of your application by giving it depth and balance and, consistency. I think both Janel and Meghan mentioned this, to be consistent across social media platforms. Well, it also helps to be consistent from your college application to your social media. That the person you're presenting to college in your essays is the same person that they're going to find on social media. There's a lot of power in that, and it's a positive power.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. All right, and with that, I think we're going to segue into tip 6 out of total of 8, and we're going to talk a little bit about the follower strategy. And this is really important too, from a lot of different perspectives. We're going to talk about getting the attention of people that you want to follow. But again, just to realize that who you follow and who you allow to follow you also play into your digital footprint and kind of shape how people view you. But this is a really good example, and Ellen, this is an example from your experience. So why don't you go ahead and talk about this one?
Okay. I think the key point here, aside from this specific tweet, is that behind every username on social media, whether it's a Facebook account, a college account, a LinkedIn college account, Instagram, Twitter, there are people behind this. So when you tweet and you mention schools, you don't even have to use their username like this student did. But we've had examples where somebody just wrote Michigan State in the part of a tweet, and Michigan State Admissions tweeted back at them. So there are people who are constantly monitoring this, and I think this is a lesson that's really important. So in this case, this was last year after acceptances came out in the spring, and Claudia was obviously accepted to both Lafayette College and Lehigh University, both in Pennsylvania. Well, she put out this tweet. I guess she couldn't decide where to go, and it's just amazing what happened. The Lehigh community, based upon this one tweet, proactively engaged with Claudia, recruiting her, telling her why she should be coming here. As it says on this slide, the dean of the School of Journalism, it turned out that she wanted to study journalism, and she also wanted to minor in global markets. So the dean of the Lehigh School of Journalism actually tweeted to her, journalism professors, journalism students, all telling her why Lehigh was a better experience than Lafayette. So it's not only important to have a good social media profile and presence, but the importance of actually being social on social media and engaging and interacting with people on social media is a powerful tool to get noticed. And what's really great is that people will respond back. I know it's intimidating for a lot of students. I know LinkedIn might be intimidating for a lot of students. GoEnnounce is a great way to get used to that, before you go out on the public roadways. But, learning how to engage is, I think, a very important skill, not only to get into college, but to get through college and to get a great job on the way out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
But learning how to use social media in this way is such an important aspect of that.
And don't you think, Alan, that there are so few kids who actually really understand that they need to engage with potential schools that they're interested in going to, and even little, departments within schools? Don't you think that that alone helps them stand out when they're willing to step outside a comfort zone and engage with these schools?
I think it shows great qualities and attributes when students do that. Mm-hmm. But it has to be authentic. It has to be sincere. Mm-hmm. You can't do it just to do it. Like, the stories are that some parents will, have their kids go on trips to South America to take care of orphans so they can put it on their college application. Somehow that will get the attention. That's not authentic necessarily, okay? Mm-hmm. But showing commitment, showing leadership, showing drive, these are all attributes that I think colleges want to see, because they want to make sure if they accept you, if they believe that you'll attend, if they accept you, the chances of you getting accepted are that much greater.
Right. Good point. All right. And
yes.
then we touched on this one earlier. I know this is one of your favorites. And the funny thing is, kind of back to my story, too, about presenting to all of these girls this summer, I had one of them raise their hand and say, oh, I don't have to worry about anybody finding me on Facebook, because all I did was I dropped my last name and now I'm my first and middle name, which, of course, she told everybody that, so we all knew. But bottom line is, I get that question all the time when I'm talking to groups of parents or kids, and you've got some really good points around this, the bottom line being that you're going to get found anyhow. But if you want to elaborate on this more, that would be awesome.
Would you like for me to handle this?
Yeah, either one of you.
Well, I think using your real name is just so important. It's authentic. It will clearly make there'll be less confusion when people are looking for you, or if you even add more identifiers to make sure they know it's the you they're looking for. But it also shows you have nothing to hide.
Right.
And one of the things that got me into this business and started giving me the passion to teach students about social media is that all the experts, the so-called experts out there, were everything was just so negative. You have to hide. You have change your name. Do this. And yet the downside wasn't that bad. I spoke to the head of admissions at a large school in the South, and they had admitted they'd look at social media, and I asked, what bothers you? And he said, what doesn't bother me is the stuff like if students are at a party during high school and they're holding a red cup or a beer bottle. So that's not going to, in and of itself, that's not, I mean, if not drinking was a requirement for admission to the school, we'd have no students. So, the focus was just too much on the negative. So use your real name. I mean, the things that will hurt you in both career and college is, as we've seen in the news recently, threats of violence, racist remarks, homophobic remarks. Those are the things that are radioactive. Once you get, and by the way, if that's what you're all about, you don't have the character to get into college. You have the character to get into jail. But for most students, just be yourself. There's nothing to hide, right? And build and create.
And I think you want to get found. I think that the kids who are trying to sort of game the system by using different names or aliases, they don't necessarily want to get found. And the problem with that is, if I'm a college admissions officer and I've got 10 seats available, but 50 people vying for those seats, and I can't find someone on social media after, you know, a
Right.
quick search, I know who I'm going to give those seats to. And, you know, I would think that you want to be found on social media.
If you're 18 and you can't be found on social media, you're hiding.
Major red flag, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And then that is a whole other red flag. What are you hiding from?
Right.
So, yeah. All right. Well, that leads us exactly into this, the whole integrity and authenticity. And we talked a little bit about this, but here's some good examples to mention.
I'll just be real quick on this because this is, you know, a rite of passage, it seems, for high school seniors to change their name on Facebook. The problem is that you can find people, you know, cutting a search so many different ways other than just by a name.
Right.
So this search was done just searching the Brearley School, which is a school here in New York City, in class of 2015. So you can see there was enough searchable keywords to pick this up. And so you're not hiding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not hiding from anybody. So again, it goes integrity and authenticity. Be yourself. People are going to look at Facebook to assess your character. You know, the great points earlier about the groups you like, who you follow. Your character is going to be judged in a lot of different ways. So be the person you are. You know, present yourself how you want to be perceived, and you're going to be fine.
Agree. And Facebook, while it's sort of, you know, still the first place where people go, I know that there are people, you know, even my girls don't have Facebook accounts, but I think if people don't want to use Facebook and they have other, you know, if they like Twitter, if they like LinkedIn or GoEnnounce or Instagram, those are fine too, as long as there's integrity and authenticity behind whatever platform you're using. And then the last one, last but definitely not least, is to start a blog. And I know that there's a lot of kids who don't like to write at all. You know, there are kids that just absolutely hate it, but there's a tremendous amount of value here because it shows, it gives you the ability to show so many things, things you're interested in, your voice, your critical thinking capabilities, and it really gives people a flavor for who you are beyond anything they're going to find in social media. If you want to impress a scholarship committee, a college admissions officer, or future employers, or if you're looking for that internship and you've got a blog that you have kept up, not just put 1 or 2 posts in, that's going to be a key differentiator. And I think that's just one of the, you know, one of the best things that you can do. Would you guys agree?
And I think, yeah, and even just to add to that, and not even for, you know, to do a blog for, you know, someone else for a college admissions, or the fact that you have taken the initiative to keep up with a blog tells you something about yourself. You're really interested in whatever you're writing about, or whatever you've chosen to have the subject of your blog about, whether that's fashion, art, photography. You know, you really have found something there and that you're passionate about. So that will help you recognize your strengths and weaknesses, you know, even at a younger age. So, you know, again, it's so important for, you know, college admissions and your digital footprint, but it's also really beneficial for yourself as well.
I have a quick story. Excuse me. I have a quick story. My younger daughter found my album collection when she was a junior in high school. And I don't want to date myself, but the albums were basically from the late 60s into the 70s, and just classic albums. So I found an old turntable and hooked it up for her, and she started listening to the music, and she loved it.
Oh.
You know, the Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, the Beatles.
Definitely. Awesome.
You've been hiding it from her the whole time.
and what she did was she started a blog. And back when she was a junior in high school, I didn't even know what the word blog meant.
Yeah.
Okay? But what she would do, she would take a photo of the album cover and the album. She would go on Google and look when the album was released, see what was going on in the country and the world at the time.
Wow.
And then she wrote a review of the music.
She
did it for about 6 or 8 albums that she found of mine, and I helped pick out which I thought were the classic ones. Senior year in high school, didn't do anything with it. She was too busy playing soccer, studying for exams, doing her application. She ended up going to University of Wisconsin at Madison. And by that time, she had a LinkedIn profile. When she was a junior, she got an email from Sony Music.
Wow.
They came across her blog, found her on LinkedIn, saw that she goes to school in Madison. And they were looking for somebody to do an internship for one of their subsidiaries to do advanced work on a college band network, and they needed somebody in Madison.
Wow.
She took the internship.
Amazing.
As a thank you, they flew her back to New York, even though that's where she's from, but they flew her in. And for a weekend, she spent with Sony Music executives and all the other interns from schools around the country.
Wow.
So she connected with all these people as a junior on LinkedIn. Fast forward senior year, they contacted her again. They needed somebody for a different subsidiary. So long story short, because she blogged as a junior in high school, all right, and she blogged about something that she loves, music, people found her. And this wasn't done it wasn't done to get into college. It wasn't done to find a job. It was done because she loved it and she wrote about it. And yet it was public. Someone with a need for her found this, saw that she was in a place where they needed her. And one thing led to another. She's graduated, but she has amazing contacts now who she stays in touch with, creating her network, all because of a blog.
That's incredible.
That's cool.
That's a great story.
Great story to end our tips with.
I think.
No kidding.
I think maybe I'll have her blog about her blog.
That's great. Yeah, that's a perfect story to end on. And I think for all three of us, we really appreciate everybody that took the time to hang out with us tonight and learn a little bit. We hope this was really valuable, and we wanted to make sure that everybody knows how to connect with us. And so on this slide, I've put our Twitter handles and our respective websites. And we would love to hear from you guys about what you thought. And I know this is being recorded, so I'm assuming we'll probably put this up on YouTube, Megan. Is that right?
Yes. So I'll have a link that we'll be able to share out as well.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So and so let us know what you thought. We would love feedback on this. Hoping that everybody got one or two nuggets at least to take away from this and to make your social media presence a little bit better. Did you guys want to have an ending note at all, or say anything to end this up?
Yeah, no, it was wonderful, and thank you all for joining us. Hopefully we can have follow-up conversations about this topic, because we know we all love to talk about it. But again, as Janel said, we would love to hear from you on how this could be changed, or even things you liked or didn't. But it was great having everyone.
Yeah, just thank you for joining us, and thank you, Megan, and thank you, Janel. It was great.
This
really
was.
Appreciate being here.
Everybody have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.